Hi everybody, and welcome to our woodshed. Why I'm in our woodshed will become clear in a second, I hope. In this tutorial I'm going to show you on how to make lye. So what's lye? Well, it's a liquid that has been used throughout history as a cleaning detergent, as a way to preserve and make food, and you can even use it to identify certain mushrooms. Nowadays it's used much less because it's been replaced by chemicals. But I think it's a shame that we've forgotten about this very simple alkalic liquid that you can easily make at home. And I've started using it, and I'm actually very happy with the results. And I try to use it as much as possible, for example, when I'm cleaning the kitchen or the bathroom. And I use it to make my own shampoo. How you make your own shampoo, I'm going to teach you in another tutorial. The link to that one is in the description below. But for this tutorial, we're just going to focus on how to make lye. And here is where it becomes clear why we're in our woodshed, because the main ingredient of lye is wood ashes, more specifically birch wood. And since I live in a very old house and our house is warmed and heated in winter by this beast of a wood stove, this is where I get my ashes from. If you don't have a wood stove at home, you can maybe find a friend that has one. Even just a regular fireplace outdoors can be a good delivery point for your ashes. Make a fire with just birch wood and let it burn down completely. As the ashes have cooled down, collect the white stuff that remains. This very fine, powdery white. You don't need the black coals, so it helps to just gather up everything, sieve it with a big mesh sieve until you have something like this that remains. This looks a bit darker because it's slightly humid in here and it's become a bit wet, and then the color changes. But this used to be like paper white. This is about 400 grams of ashes, and to that I will be needing 2 liters of just regular plain water. This is just tap water that has come out of the tap here. There's no need to use bottled water. Just be careful when you live in an area that has a lot of additives to your tap water. Then it might be good to even use rainwater, because that's as clear as you need it for things like cleaning and your shampoo. So what else do you need? You need a big pot. It needs to be heated, so you need a cooking plate. Big thanks to my patrons that made possible for me to buy this cooking plate. This is a pot that I bought in a secondhand store, so it's okay if it gets a bit dirty or if I throw it around. But you can use a regular pot that you use for cooking as well, because this lye should not hurt your pots and pans. Besides that, you need a jar, a glass jar, to store your lye in when you're done. And finally, a fine mesh sieve, so that you can pour your liquid through this as soon as you're done with it, so that you don't have any ashes in your final lye. I'm using this coffee filter. You can use a paper coffee filter. This is a reusable coffee filter that has fabric, so you can just wash and clean this and use it again. You could also use some form of fine fabric, and you can just pour your water through. If you're using it for cleaning, for a kitchen, for example, it's okay if there are some ashes in it, because that's actually nice as a polishing substance, how will you say? Since I'm going to be using this for shampoo, I do not want ashes in my hair, so I'm using this sieve when we're done. So, how does this work? Well, you need about 200 grams of ashes per liter of water. That will end you up with about 600 milliliters of lye. Since I like to make my shampoo in bulk, I'm making 1.5 liters of lye. So I'm using 400 grams of ashes and 2 liters of water. So how does this work? Well, you take the pot, You pour in your ashes. Be careful when you're doing this because it makes an insane cloud if you just dip it in. And that's not the most healthy to breathe. It can't hurt, but just in the long run, your lungs will not be happy. So carefully pour this in. There, done. Then water. Carefully as well. Just pour it in. Make sure that all your ashes are in the water. There. Now this looks like either a witch's brew or something a child would do. Or if you're making cement. That's okay, it will get better later on. Put on the lid. And now we turn up the heat. I'm just going to put it on full heat because we want to bring it to a boil and I don't have patience. And this will take a while. So now, cue waiting music. It's cooking! Great! Now, turn off the heat. But leave it on so that it stays warm and it cools down softly. If you're not cooking on electric, but if you're cooking on gas or an induction stove, just cook it for about 10 to 20 minutes and that will give you the same result. This will now leave to cool down. That will take a couple of hours. So I'm going to check up on this again tonight and then we'll see how it turned out. Great, here we are again. About 4 hours later, this has cooled down so far that it's room temperature. So let's see the result. Perfect. It smells like wood and forest. Good stuff. It looks horrible. As you hopefully can see. All the ashes have sunk down to the bottom. So if you pour this very carefully, hopefully most of the ashes will actually stay in the pan. So I get a jar. And the filter. Wait, if I do like this, it sticks. There, perfect. And very, very gently, you just pour it out into your jar. Now I'm rushing this a bit, so there's way more ashes joining the water than there usually is. If you have a bit more patience and not make a video about it. But there you have it. It's a process that requires a lot of waiting and some patience. Not a thing I'm really good at. But it's worth it. It's so worth it. So this soup is what you're after. My ashes weren't 100% clean and that's why it became this dirty brown. Normally it would be a bit lighter brown or maybe even see-through. If you get to that point, then you've done it really, really well. But this is just as usable. It just looks not as nice. Now the ashes that are still left after this process, you can use them again and again and again. I tend to use them about 5 times. The pH of this is probably around 10, so it's really alkaline. The ashes get less and less potent every time you use them, every time you cook them. So you can compensate for that by leaving the pot about half an hour longer. So now I've cooked it and then left it for about 4 hours. So you can then leave it for 4.5, 5, and as long as you want to. If you want to be really sure, you can buy these pH strips. The pH that you're out after for example, a shampoo is about 9 or 10. If you want something really potent, this type of process can get you to a pH of about 14. The longer you cook it and the longer you leave it, the higher the pH will get. Now we're down to mainly the ashes, so I'm just cooking this out. And finally, hopefully we'll get there. The good thing is, since I'm gonna boil these ashes again, I don't need to get all the water out of this. As long as I strain most of it, then I'm fine. And I can just put another 2 liters in this pan and cook it up again, so I can fill this jar all the way up to the brim. So there you have it. It's as easy as that. Now you have your lye for cleaning up your kitchen, making food, storing food, or whatever else you want to use it for. You can clean sheep guts to make strings, for example, musical instrument strings, which is easier than it seems. So just experiment away, I'd say. Enjoy and good luck!